Happy holidays, everybody! It is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Raise your goats, raise your glass, raise whatever it is you have in your hand, and let's talk movies. Tonight's movie is Stardust, 2007. Michelle Pfeiffer and all sorts of fun folks. But let us introduce ourselves, please. My name is Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. I'm honored to be part of the Witches Movie Coven. You might also know me from The Witching Hour, my regular podcast, Ghost Adventures, Portals to Hell, or Bathroom Walls Across America. I'm honored to be here with these, my bestie coven mates, and Black Phillip is multiplying. So let's pass this over to Courtney because
That's me. My Black Phillip is not multiplying yet, but I'm hoping you'll join me in welcoming my newest Black Phillip. And you too, watching at home, can also receive a package that looks like this. How? By going to mysterycontrol.com and ordering your own Bling Phillip. So I would love if everyone could join me in welcoming the newest member of my herd of ghosts, and our newest coven member, Bling Phillip.
He can't breathe. He can't.
Hurry up! Don't let him die.
There he is. This is your brother. And look at this little box. In this little box comes something exciting. Please hold. His goat bling. Oh no, my camera's not.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
There's his goat bling.
Oh, Bling!
Wow. So now Bling Phillip, we're gonna loop him. Oh. Well, he has a thick neck. Maybe mine doesn't loop.
You have to unclasp it.
I did it. Okay. Hold
Richard-Lael, what would we do without you?
Right. Richard-Lael knows what to do with jewelry.
Mr. Mankey did the same thing without.
No, he was listening in the back room. We just didn't know it.
No, I had my sister-in-law do it because I couldn't figure it out.
There he is.
Nice, Courtney.
Bling Phillip, welcome to the coven. Join your brothers. Look at how many Black Phillips I have.
Richard-Lael.
Yes, Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a... with that, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I'm a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. Unlike all of the other psychics here in New Orleans, who are all doom and gloom or love and light, I'm a happy medium. With that, I am also known on Ghost Adventures. You can find me at the University Magicus. You can find me at thegentlemanpsychic.com. You can find me here in New Orleans where I do tarot and seances in this lovely parlor, but normally it's not that brightly lit. Normally it's a little bit more dim.
It's beautiful. Jason.
I'm Jason. I am a Llewellyn author. This time of year, I love to promote Llewellyn's Little Book of Yule because I would describe myself as a Yule enthusiast because I love this time of year, and it is my favorite time of year, and it is the best time of year. And I'm so happy to be here with my coven during this wonderful holiday season.
Thank you. Now, Heather, unfortunately, cannot be with us here this evening. She's got fun, fabulous family things to do, but she'll be back next week. And let's talk Stardust a little bit. I had never seen it before. I watched it last night, and hope you guys all watched it. Thank you, Robert. Hi, Werner. Hi, host. Hi, Luther. Hi, Mary Jane. Everybody's in here. Yay. All right. All the cool kids. So Stardust. It's a movie, 2007. It was so new to me. Just in case any of you did not watch it, Richard-Lael, do you have an unbiased synopsis of this beautiful film?
I do have an unbiased synopsis, and I think that my unbiased synopsis is, I think I'm going to leak how I feel, I'm afraid. So, because I love Neil Gaiman. I love him. I cannot tell you how much I love his works. Now, with that said, Stardust is based on his novel from 1997. It is the story about a young boy who lives in Wall, someplace on Earth in England, and he cannot go beyond the wall. No mortal can step beyond the wall. And his father before him finds out that he can, in fact, go across the wall. And 18 years later, he gets a strange, well, not 18, 9 months later, he gets a bundle of joy dropped at the wall, which with a delivery note for him. 18 years later, the child has grown into a young man and decides that he too can go on the other side of the wall in search of a fallen star so that he can persuade the woman of his dreams to marry him instead of someone else. As they go on this adventure, they find that he was given a Babylon candle in his swaddling clothes and basket, which it's the fastest way to travel, and he is only supposed to think of his mother, only his mother and no one else. But he thought of his mother, then he thought of the girl that he's in love with, and the star that he promised to get for her. And of course, he crashes into her, mistaken identity, thinks that she is his mother. They go on adventures. You find out that there are witches who consume the heart of a fallen star who is anthropomorphic. And they go on all of these adventures. You find out then through misadventure that instead of falling in love with the wrong girl in the village, he actually is in love with the star, who in return is in love with him. On their adventures, they of course meet more witches. They meet Michelle Pfeiffer as the Grand High Witch, not exactly, but the Grand High Witch, who is one of the three fates. And then there is, where am I? And my favorite is along the way they meet the gay uncle, Robert De Niro, who is this airship captain, lightning collector, swashbuckling, emphasis on swish. And along the way, they find that this educated man helps these two to really fall in love. They are pursued to the wall, and you find out that if the star crosses into the mortal world, she only becomes dust, just lumpy old rocks. But the witches are trying to consume her heart so they can regain their youth, vitality, beauty, and longevity. As it turns out, they are kidnapped. They are brought to the witch's lair so that the Grand High Witch and her sisters can consume. Meanwhile, of course, the princes, there's this other whole side story about who's going to be the next new king of Stormhold or something. Anyway, they're all dead. So you find out that it is, in fact, the boy is the next male heir in line to be the king of Stormhold. He marries the star, Yvonne. No, I can't remember her name. Yvette? Evelyn? I can't remember. Anyway,
Yvain.
What was it?
Yvain.
She meets they stay on the throne for 80 years, and when all of their children and all of their grandchildren are raised, they use a Babylon candle and they go home to live forever after, happily ever after. And it was beautiful, and that was what I have to say.
Thank you very much. That was very clear, Richard-Lael.
I do love this movie.
Now, we do not have Heather, but we do have Jason. And Jason has stepped in wholeheartedly with perhaps 5 things we need to know about the movie.
All right. Let me get on my Heather Greenness.
Come, Heather.
All right. This is 5 things with Jason Greene. So one of the things that you need to know about this film is that it came out after the Lord of the Rings movies, when there was a little mini fantasy boomlet. It was not a witch boom, but it was a boom for things from fantasy novels, and those often have witches in them. Okay, that was my first thing. Now, 5 things. This is a Neil Gaiman story. Most people are familiar with Neil Gaiman because he's had lots of stuff adapted over the last couple of years, but he started out as a comic book writer. And in 1990, he writes Good Omens with Terry Pratchett, which is his first book and not a comic. And that came out in 1990. Before that, he was known for the Sandman comics at DC. And in 1997, Stardust comes out, and it's the first major adaptation of Gaiman's work. Coraline, which we talked about just a few months ago, would follow 2 years later. If you're a big Sandman fan, you probably know that it's already been adapted into a television show. Because of some recent things, it's unlikely we will see very many more Neil Gaiman adaptations going forward, but there have been a lot since this particular movie, Stardust, was released way back in 2007. Stardust was originally released not as a book, but as a comic book. It's not a traditional comic book by any means. It did not have word balloons, but it came out printed like a comic book, and there's lots and lots of illustrations in this version of Stardust. The illustrator is Charles Vest, and his art informs the story. As I said, though, no word balloons, just illustrations between blocks of text, kind of like a fairy tale. This was first published in 1997. Not surprisingly, a collected edition shows up shortly thereafter. And in 1999, it was published for the first time as just a book without any of the illustrations. A film adaptation was developed as early as 1998. So as soon as this came out, people saw a lot of potential for it. And it was actually optioned at one point, but they didn't do a whole lot with the movie. And Neil Gaiman took the rights back. He refused several offers over the years because he really wanted a hands-on role. He had seen what had happened to some other comic book writers whose works were adapted. Most specifically, he saw what happened to the Alan Moore things, especially the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is really, really bad. Eventually, he starts talking to Matthew Vaughn and Terry Gilliam about making this film. Terry Gilliam, we've talked about Gilliam on the show. He did Time Bandits, for instance. Gilliam was excited, but he left the project to do the Brothers Grimm. Matthew Vaughn left the project too, but then he comes back a few years later after directing his first film. Gaiman trusted Matthew Vaughn so much for this movie that he did not charge him for the rights. This is my third thing, Matthew Vaughn. If you watch a lot of superhero movies, you're probably familiar with Vaughn. He started out producing movies for directors like Guy Ritchie. He eventually directed his first movie in 2004, and that was called Layer Cake, and it stars a very young Daniel Craig before he was James Bond. Later, Vaughn goes on to direct Kick-Ass, X-Men First Class, and the Kingsman movies, the first two of which are really good, and then the last prequel, which is really not very good. But Matthew Vaughn is pretty famous as a director, and really, Stardust was his second movie, but it was one that really sort of made him famous. The future and reception of Stardust. Gaiman has said over the years that he has other stories that he might do behind the wall, but so far nothing has become of that. Matthew Vaughn has said that he would like to do a second Stardust movie, and he has an idea what it might be like, but the film did not make enough money to justify a sequel. Though it's very famous in certain corners, the movie cost $88 million to make and only grossed $137 million, and you basically have to triple your budget in order to make any money for a Hollywood movie. So the reviews for the movie were pretty good, but they weren't great, like about a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. But the movie has gotten a big second life on cable and has become a staple on that dying medium, which is the reason probably many of us have watched this movie over the last 15 years. So that's 5 things about this movie. Now I'm going to take this off, and not be Jason Greene, and just be Jason. And there you go, Christmas.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. That is beautiful. All right. Does anybody want to jump in and go first?
Courtney does.
Why do you put me on the... All right. As the resident movie hater, I will let you know that I had never heard of this movie before. We talked about doing it for the show. And when I looked at the poster of it, I thought, let me count the ways I'm going to hex whoever put this on the list. And then, yeah, well, I hope you felt my rage. And then when the movie started and it was stars and it looked like they were talking to each other again, a la It's a Wonderful Life, which I do love It's a Wonderful Life, but like that scene was a lot. I was distracted. I mean, I was like, I can't make eye contact with my television. I have to do something else to protect me from this. Can't do it. And then I caught myself distracted watching it, like hearing it, and then I'd like glance over and I'd be like, oh, well, something's happening over here. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. So I got about 25 minutes into it and I was like, you know what? I have to rewind it. And so I started it over and then I paid attention to it. And then I fell asleep for an hour. And then I woke back up and it was delightful. And I loved it. And I loved it. And it was stupid. And they took it very seriously, which I love when that happens, even though it was silly. It felt silly. And I don't know if it's the closeted hopeless romantic in me that it just tickled something in there. I was obsessed with it. I'm going to watch it over and over again. I love this movie. I thought it was great. There was questing. You can't go wrong with questing.
Perfect.
Right?
Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you. Jason?
I think there's probably a good movie hidden in Stardust somewhere, but I think it's too long. I know. I'm prepared to be hexed tonight. I think it's a little too long, and there's a lot of busy stuff going around. If you listen to Richard-Lael's synopsis of the movie, the princes take up a pretty good deal of the film, and yet there's sort of this weird side thing that doesn't really fit in with the rest of the movie very well. And there's a lot of things like that. Like Ricky Gervais shows up for a while, and you roll your eyes every
he
time
squawks.
he's on the screen. Yeah, there's a lot of different elements that should make this movie really good, and I just don't think that they always come together in the way that we want them to. Soundtrack is great. The story tries really hard to be the Princess Bride without quite being the Princess Bride. I understand why people like it, but it's not really my cup of tea. I say this as someone who read the book and saw this movie in the theater.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll go. I liked it. What I didn't, and again, the characters were fun. Robert De Niro, he must have had so much fun. He must have like jumped up and down going to work, just like I get to dance and do all this funny stuff. The thing I didn't like, because in this weird, scary, dark world, I am becoming the peacenik of the world. I didn't like them cutting open animals. I mean, and eating hearts and things. I mean, I'm all down for an evil witch, but not evil witch who eats an animals. And I don't like animals in cages. And all that stuff just hurts me to the soul, to the bone. So I would have to close my eyes on all those parts. And there were way too many of those parts. I love the evil witches. I love Claire Danes. She's a beautiful star. I love the other princess, not princess, that you're supposed to hate, and I hated her appropriately. I love the star kid. I don't even know who he is, the Cox guy. So I thought it was great. And I personally liked that everybody again, Miss Peacenik. But it doesn't matter if you die because you get to come back as a ghost immediately.
Yeah, and be force ghosts like Star Wars. They were force ghosts. It looked like just watching everything.
Yeah, just watch the whole thing. So that made dying much more fun like that. And I did not mind the princes at all. I like them, these goofy brothers trying for this thing. So I got the fairy tale, I got the funny, I got everything. Just didn't like the animals, but I thought Michelle was great. I thought all the characters were lovely. I want to be a star.
Well, you are a star in our mind, but
Thank you.
I will tell you, I love this film. I've seen it many times, and I love, 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 love this film. Maybe I am a hopeless romantic, possibly so. I didn't care for the animals being sacrificed because it's an old trope that you would look at the entrails, but much like the violence that you see in my other favorite things, the Addams Family, it's all off screen, so you don't actually get to see it, which I think is clever. And I liked that all of the animals in the fight scene when what's his name, the hero, he's sort of fighting against the witch, and he releases them all, and they go after they get their comeuppance or whatever. They attack the villain, which I thought was great. And Michelle Pfeiffer as one of the fates, or with a Grand High Witch, or the Bette Midler role in Hocus Pocus as being the head witch was fabulous. I loved the fact that her magic took its toll, and even calling would make her have age spots, or when her hair starts falling out in clumps. And I loved the fact that when she was more beautiful, when she had consumed the last remaining portion of the last fallen star, that she was naked in the mirror, just sort of that.
Which I can totally understand if you're Michelle Pfeiffer. I'd look at myself every day too.
Yeah.
And Michelle Pfeiffer is still stunning.
She's still stunning.
She's still stunning.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I loved it. I even liked the side story of the princes who were brothers. I thought that it was a little predictable in the sense that that he meets this woman who's chained, the father, and then 9 months later he has this boy, and then 18 years later the kid goes out. Who's going to be his mother? I mean, and then they're talking about, well, where's the sister? Where's the sister? Where's where she's the sister. I just felt that was predictable, but I liked it overall. I thought it was funny. I loved that there were some references to charms and potions and what I consider real magic. And again, I really love Robert De Niro in this role. I sometimes, as an out gay man myself, sometimes I take issue when a heterosexual man plays a gay role. And sometimes it can be a little offensive. And maybe it was a little bit, but I think it was funny and sweet and charming. And I loved the fact that his crew already knew, and they loved him anyway. And they said, well, we knew that you were you're the captain. We always know that you're the captain. And then the end, when the girl that I always want to call him Tristan. Anyway, the girl that the hero.
It is Tristan.
Is it Tristan? Yeah. Because I was singing Tristan and Us all day, but okay. So Tristan, the girl that he was to marry ends up with the guy that she was originally going to marry anyway. And at the end of the wedding, Robert De Niro and this young guy are winking at each other across the wedding venue. And I went,
we don't talk about that as being a big deal today. Like, having a gay character in a movie is very standard. But even in 2007, that was something that you didn't see very often, especially for an A-list actor like Robert De Niro to do something like that. I feel like I should point out, in 2007, this movie did win a GLAAD award for Best Feature. I think largely because of Robert De Niro. And I think that wink at the end of the movie is actually the best part of the movie, and was the only part that I really, really laughed out loud. And I was watching it with my sister-in-law and my wife, and we all pointed at the screen, and we're like giddy and happy about that little moment.
And I in my mind, I think that the young man and the young woman, I think that they probably end up in divorce. And I think that the captain and this young man are actually happy together, and they can practice sword fighting and play the piano and wear their dresses. And I think that, in my mind, they live happily ever after. And the woman who was kind of catty and selfish, I think that she's like the popular girl in high school that ends up by, she was the cheerleader, and then she ends up by having several children. And then the next thing you know, you go back to your 20th, 30th, 40th anniversary, and you go, whoa, that's who I think she is.
Peaking too early. We call that peaking too early. Some of us are late bloomers. We keep going. We're not there in high school, and you're peaking too early. That is beautiful. I love that you loved it. And Michelle Pfeiffer is so beautiful. She can look at her. I may have said this story before. I don't know. My very first movie was with Michelle Pfeiffer. And she was, I think, just a couple of years younger than me. And I was maybe 20 or something, or 21. And I just looked at her, and she wasn't known or anything, and I'm just like, "This is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life." Yeah, there's something radiant about her besides even just what we see on screen and what we see. There's something inside of her. They're still writing songs about her, so it's amazing. The movie I was in is called Falling in Love Again. It's done by this interesting Hollywood family called the Paul family, Stuart Paul. We could go into stories and stories about. I think I've been in 3 of their films. But that's one of my choices. I got to work with John Voight a couple times. A very independent kind of family-run film. But that was the first one, Falling in Love Again. And all sorts of people, cameos were amazing of people. I don't know if you could even see it anywhere. I'm like the girlfriend of like the lead's best friend's brother. So I think I say 3 things and I'm mostly on his lap and running around. But I still have that vision of Michelle. Oh my God, you found
Yeah.
it. Oh my God. Yeah. Elliot Gould. Yeah. Susanna York. Michelle. Yeah. That was it. Thank you. Oh, our producer just pulls things out of the amazing. So anyway,
you can watch it on Tubi for free.
Can you?
Mhm.
Speaking of Michelle Pfeiffer, I'm going to put my Heather scarf on again. And I feel like I need to point out that she was the star of Grease 2, which Heather Greene and Jason both love. But I know Heather would have mentioned that if she was here. So I'm going to put on my scarf every time
that you have to be Heather.
that I have to be Heather.
And speaking of Grease,
and I loved her in Hairspray.
we all need to keep scarves close by when we need to do the Heather. Yeah. So have we talked about this whole movie completely? We're going to have to go into so many other things.
I will say, like our producer pointed out that Henry Cavill was it Cavill Superman was in this movie as the boyfriend, which I didn't realize while I was watching it. And this movie has so many famous people in it that you don't realize are famous people. Tristan was played by. Thank you for getting that joke. It took you all a second. That's good. He was played by the guy who plays Daredevil on the Netflix TV shows, Charlie Cox. So he would become very famous, about 10 years after this particular movie. And then also one of my favorite actors that people don't talk about, but he's great in like everything that he does is, what's his name? He was in all of the Kingsman movies. Mark Strong, he plays Prince Septimus. He's usually bald in every other movie that he's in, but he has dark hair in this, and it freaks me out to see him with hair on his head. Yeah. But he's pretty good as Septimus. He has that intensity.
I had not realized that until you mentioned it, but yes, that was what it was. I had forgotten that he is always bald.
Yeah.
I also have to admit that I loved the deception that Michelle Pfeiffer had at the end when she tells the Tristan and Isolde, whatever her name is, to just go. Everything is gone. Everything I love is gone. My sisters are gone. Just go. And in that deception, it was really so that she could shatter all of those mirrors as they walked along the hall. I liked her deception. And there was a little bit of Miss Havisham that I kind of found alluring in Michelle Pfeiffer's old version of the witch. Loved it.
I also think like it's worth talking about the costumes in this movie were really great too. Like I loved their like witchy clothes and whatever. And then whatever her name is, the star. I pick out like it's the neurodivergence. I pick out the weirdest things, but when she was climbing into the wagon when they were getting kidnapped and like the back of her dress was open and she had the corset on underneath, but it wasn't like cinched tightly. It looked like very comfortable, but it looked really cute. And I was like, I need that. I want to wear that. But I felt that way about like everybody's outfits in this movie. I wanted to wear it. I thought Tristan's outfit when he got his little glow up was great. Like it was just so fun. And then of course Robert De Niro and all of his outfits, and imagining him in all of those outfits was my favorite.
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of magic to talk about as far as when he is. I used to be a former drag queen. I will admit that. I'm not going to tell you the name here, but if you could ask me later.
Come on.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the
Come
chat.
on.
I can't. Okay, I'll tell you the drag queen name, but it's a family show. The drag queen name was Cleopatra Denial. Because I was thinking she was a 20s film star. She was silent. She didn't lip sync like other drag queens would do. And you can still find, if you look on Meow Mix and look for Cleopatra Denial, you can still find some of those things. Anyway, so I would have all of that wardrobe and I would do those things. And then I moved to Hollywood and I lived in a fabulous little tiny studio apartment. And my neighbors were evil and I hated them. They were awful. They were just awful. They were the worst. And I'm so that I don't, how do I say this? So that I don't come across as the villain, I will say that they were intimate with each other in a very loud way. And they were mean to their children who lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And if I could hear them in the next apartment over, and they would say things that were innately racist against everyone. And they would play loud music. And I hated these people. I hated them with a passion. I hated them. And so in order to sort of drive them away, I love the can-can. I love it with everything in my being. I love can-can music. I love it. And when they would be loud, I would put the speaker outside of my window on Hollywood. I was across diagonally from Hollywood Forever Cemetery on Sunset.
Wow.
And there was a building behind me. It's a prop house. And there was no one below. And there was just like 7 people in this apartment, in the building. And I would turn my speaker so that it would hit that back wall and it would bounce right back into their apartment. And I would play and I would do it for 7 hours on repeat.
You are evil.
And then I would just go out for a walk, and then I would come back, and I would listen to and they moved in like a month and a half.
Amazing. Hey, speaking of that's hysterical. Though I would have been, can. I'm going to give you guys my magical secret to get rid of somebody. Give somebody you want to go away or not be a friend or not be a citrine. A citrine stone.
I have another tip for getting people away from you using crystals is that you throw them at their face. And if they if they don't go away, you throw them harder. So
that, and if it's a citrine, they're going to go away anyway. Yeah. Like if I decided I like citrine and they're great to have for yourself, but say if I wanted to give, what are you guys need a citrine for whatever reason, the attributes in the stone, I would make you pay me a penny for it or something. And then it's not a gift. It's just, you don't gift a citrine to somebody or it makes them go away.
I'm mentally tabulating a list in my head of all the people that I need to send citrines to.
50-cent stones, it's like.
Yeah, I'm going to buy them in bulk, probably on Amazon. Maybe not Amazon, but like I'll find somewhere.
Can we send one to Florida? Is that?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can.
I'm going to give a wands down to the wrong movie, and then I'm just going to get a pile of citrine from Courtney. Just gonna come express mail. I'm just gonna dump it out. My wife will shrug and goes like, "Who wants to get rid of you this time?" I'll be like, Buckley.
going to start throwing crystals at people. See,
Yeah, it's a tip. Listen, that's on witchcraft. You get creative, you practice what you need to practice. And that sometimes, my friends, is how I am a witch. I just figure it out. And if throwing things at people to get them away from me is how we do it, well, there's intention there, and it's all about intention. So
Witchcraft 101 spell
yep.
Yeah.
How to be a bad witch, me.
Well, thank you for that. Are we missing anything in the chat room as an I think so, but you guys are active and we like that. Hi, Cindy. Hi, everybody. I haven't learned how to go in the chat room and do this at the same time. You guys are way too better at multitasking than I am.
I have 2 screens, so that's why.
Okay. All right. Next week. Well, we're not there yet, but we could talk about next week now, right? Can we?
I think we should.
We
We
talk
can
about
announce next week. Yeah.
Wicked.
Big week. Mm-hmm.
Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into beautiful holidays. See, Wicked. I just saw it 2 nights ago in the theater, like the 2 movies I see at a movie theater every year. Can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait.
I am using this as an excuse to go see it again so that I can bring a notepad and paper with me and try to take some quotes down, is what I'm telling myself. I'm just going to see it again. So
Good.
And we will have special guest, Chad Hatter.
Ooh, yes, that's right. Chad could give us some perhaps costuming secrets because I love the costuming on that. So weird. So beautiful. So weird. So
I still have to see it, so I have to catch up still. You know, I chose Gladiator 2 that weekend. That was not the consensus in the coven to see Gladiator 2.
Excuse me. I've seen it twice.
At first, like originally. Yeah, I know. You've also seen Moana 2.
Did you go dressed in costume? As Wicked? When you went to go see it?
And Wicked, no, but when I went to see Wicked, I pulled in and I realized that Gladiator 2 was also out that night. That's how I remembered, because there was 2 grown men walking to their cars in full Gladiator outfits. And I rolled down my window and I said, this is amazing. And then I promptly went to see Gladiator 2. And yes, I've also seen Moana 2. We had my Thanksgiving tradition with Nathan is to go to the movies, which I talk about all the time. And this year, he was upset with me because the movie was Moana 2. And I'm so obsessed with Moana, or was so obsessed with Moana, that I watched it so many times that the only times I was actually allowed to watch it eventually was on my birthday or Mother's Day, was when I was granted permission to put it on the television by His Highness. And then that was the movie that was out. So then he said, usually if I have him like for dinner time, we go for a double feature. We see 2 movies. And this year he was too cool for school. He's a teenager. He doesn't want to see 2. And then I was like, but Gladiator, Pedro Pascal's in it. There's a lot of like shirtless, bloody men who are getting like rolling around in dirt and like doing weird things. And he was like,
I'm going to watch that one.
Yeah, that's what he did. He was like, okay. And then we were 2 minutes into Gladiator 2 and I had already seen it because I knew what was coming. And I needed to be able to concentrate the first time I saw it. But we were 2 minutes into Gladiator 2 and he turned to me and he said, okay, I love this movie. This is the best one. And then tried to info dump on me about ancient Rome the whole time we were watching the movie. And then I kept on be like, shh, like the men, the muscles are on the screen. And he'd be like, oh yeah. And then we get out to the car and it was like a fountain. And for like 2 hours, he just info dumped all over me about Gladiator life and ancient Rome. And it was great. So yeah, I've seen it twice. And I would see that again too.
I'd be like, hey kid, shh, be quiet. I'm at the movies. Stop talking. Mom, take your kid to the kid to the lobby.
We went to he is an appropriate level talker at the movies when he tries to talk, but I do that and I yell at him and I give the loud shh at him. But we saw that one in the X Plus theater, which is like our movie theater's version of like an IMAX, so it's louder. So you can't hear anybody around you because it's so loud. So when he would lean over and like try to whisper something to me and I would be like, shh, the men, nobody can hear us.
Good.
Yeah, we
saw. There's an important question in the chat.
What?
Was there ghost sex?
Nope.
There was-
Stardust.
There was ghosts.
I'm still waiting on the ghost sex.
We don't see everything the ghosts are doing,
One
but
is naked.
but they are brothers, so you hope that there's no ghost
Right.
sex.
Yeah,
Right. We weren't really rooting for it in this.
Yeah.
Take it. The other term, Michelle Pfeiffer, naked, looking at herself in the mirror, is almost the other definition of spectrophilia. Spectrophilia has two definitions. One is human ghost relationships, intimate relationships, and the other one is basically masturbation in a mirror with yourself. Or
Oh.
sexual attraction. Not that she's doing that, but it's attraction to you in a mirror. So there was spectrophilia and with beautiful Michelle Pfeiffer. Go, how beautiful I look.
That makes so much sense, knowing that there's a term for that. Since I'm currently online dating, I feel like I know a lot of people who might be into that now, and it's looking at themselves in the mirror and just being attracted to themselves. Like I feel like I encounter that on the daily.
It's very popular. But yeah, she was great. So I guess there was a little bit of spectrophilia, not necessarily ghost sex in the movie.
On the naked brother, did you notice when his throat was slit that his blood was blue because he was a blue blood?
Royal. Blue blood. Yeah, I love that. I love all those little details like that. I thought that was adorable. And they were so doofusy. That was so all right.
So adorable when his throat was slit. Just and then the blue blood comes out. I'm like, yay!
And bathtub scenes. I love bathtub scenes. You know, I like bathtub scenes. So anyway, do we have a Mankey movie minute on this masterpiece?
We have quotes first, though.
Oh wait, I totally forgot about the quotes.
That's all right, because I also totally forgot about the quotes, if I'm being honest.
That's right.
Because I was so enraptured in the movie that I forgot to write them down. So I had to go back and find what I could find. So this is not going to be my best quotes selection ever, but I think I pulled some good ones. So one of my favorites was Yvain, when they were running, they were trying to get back to the wall or wherever they were going, and the yellow caravan came up, and then that's when we find out that he has the flower and it's protection or whatever, and she's yelling at the witch, and the witch or whoever that lady was, and she's not hearing her. So then she starts yelling, "Would I be correct in thinking you can neither see nor hear me? Then I'd like to tell you that you smell of pee. You look like the wrong end of a dog. And I swear if I don't get my Tristan back as he was, I will be your personal poltergeist." And that felt like an insult that I would hurl at somebody, so I liked that one. I think this was while I was sleeping because I don't remember seeing this, but I thought this was funny. One of the people said, "You better be telling the truth, you two-faced dog." And the other person said, "Well, I can get you one of them, actually. Very good guard dogs. They can watch the back door and the front door at the same time." And then I also found a quote from a deleted scene, which I feel like I would have liked to see this scene, but or this part of the scene. Tristan, while they're drinking champagne, says, "An interesting fact, actually. The first champagne glass was molded on the left breast of Marie Antoinette." And the high school girl, Lady Victoria, looks at him disgusted, and he says, "I don't know if there was something wrong with her right one."
Yeah, I wish that had been in the movie too.
Right?
Great movie, yeah.
Right. Then actually the first line in the movie, I'm gonna get a little sappy for a second because this one I really liked, even though the stars were starring at that point. But the narrator says, "A philosopher once asked, are we human because we gaze at the stars, or do we gaze at them because we are human? Pointless, really. Do the stars gaze back? Now that's a question." And as someone who very often the night calls to me and I go outside and gaze at the stars, that's something I'm gonna have to ponder a little bit now and then. And then my last one, and this is for the hopeless romantic in me, is Yvain's declaration of love, because I thought it was beautiful. She said, "When I said I knew little about love, that wasn't true. I know a lot about love. I've seen it, centuries and centuries of it, and it was the only thing that made watching your world bearable. All those wars, pain, lies, hate, it made me want to turn away and never look down again. But when I see the way mankind loves, You could search to the farthest reaches of the universe and never find anything more beautiful. So yes, I know that love is unconditional, but I also know that it can be unpredictable, unexpected, uncontrollable, unbearable, and strangely easy to mistake for loathing. And what I'm trying to say is, Tristan, I think I love you. Is this love, Tristan? I never imagined I'd know it for myself. My heart, it feels like my chest can barely contain it, like it's trying to escape because it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to you. And if you wanted it, I'd wish for nothing in exchange. No gifts, no goods, no demonstrations of devotion. Nothing but knowing you loved me too. Just your heart in exchange for mine. And isn't that what we're all looking for in this world? I thought it was beautiful.
I agree.
Or a lot of money.
Right, but I love a lot of money, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Courtney. All right, now, Jason, do we have a magnificent, marvelous Mankey movie moment?
Considering how much you all like this film, you might as well just turn your lights off now. It's gonna be one of those minutes where Jason was not a huge fan of the movie and makes fun of everybody and is quite mean. So I'm just getting you ready now. Richard-Lael has his lights off, perfect. Courtney's got her sunglasses on. My Black Phillips are probably going to walk away because they're probably mad at me too, and I haven't even started yet. So here we go. I love all of you. Please continue to love me. A great tasting dish. Dish as in food, by the way, not dish like a plate. So as I was saying, a great tasting dish is like a great movie. It is more than just the sum of its parts. You can take 20 delicious ingredients, mix them all up, and not create the main course of your dreams or even something that is edible. Movies are much the same way. You can take 20 really great things, make them all a part of your movie, and still end up with a boring bologna, mayonnaise, and American cheese sandwich on white bread. Such is the fate of Stardust, a movie with many great ingredients that doesn't quite work like people thought it would. Start your dish, of course, by consulting a recipe card written by your grandmother and then adding your own embellishments. In the case of the movies, consult a comic book, license that comic book, and then adapt the work of someone else because there are no original ideas in Hollywood. Set the budget for your dish. In the case of this movie, find $80 million for what should be a much simpler film. $80 million is a lot of money, and I'm not even sure what they spent it on in Stardust. Some dopey CGI-enhanced ghost. By way of comparison, another movie by a comic book writer guy, The 300, only cost $65 million to make. You can have the best cut of steak in the world, but if you don't know how to cook it properly, it doesn't matter how expensive your magic cow meat is. And you can throw a lot of money at a movie, but that doesn't mean your movie will be good. Once you have your cut of meat or your movie, let a rising and talented director or chef try to do 19 different things to it. Maybe he should start by boiling the meat to remove all the flavor and give it a rubbery texture. And then he can throw it on a grill, being sure to char the edges while keeping the center ice cold. Whatever the director did to this movie, it was all messy, and he did it for a very long while, resulting in a runtime that was too long by about 40 minutes.
Wow.
Add a dash of American actress to your movie whose English accent just isn't very good. Be sure to pluck that actress from American television, so perhaps her fans from that show will show up to watch your movie. And to make sure their parents and or grandparents go to the movie too, sprinkle on some Robert De Niro. Make sure your De Niro is campy and only on screen to cash a paycheck. You wouldn't want him doing anything that remind people he is an iconic actor. I know you all hate me now. Add a teaspoon of Michelle Pfeiffer to your dish or movie. As one of the most beautiful women in the world, be sure to hide her face behind some hideous makeup. And don't give her too much screen time. It's far more important to spend time with your two younger leads who have about as much chemistry as a sock cuddled up next to a piece of Spam. Be sure to marinate heavily with Ricky Gervais, who gets fourth billing in this movie, even though he does basically nothing, and when he does appear, he is just annoying. Is there another movie he can troll? Seriously, asking for a friend. There are other people who are now famous or were famous when this movie was released. Sienna Miller is one, and she is instructed just to be shrill and off-putting. Peter O'Toole was really famous in his time, and he simply dies in this movie. Charlie Cox, who would later play Daredevil, is the lead character in the film, and Richard-Lael, who loves this movie, can't even remember the lead character's name. And I only figured that out because while I was watching this movie yesterday, I also read some Wikipedia. So many ingredients were put into this film, and they were all pretty great ingredients. Sadly, all of them combined did not make a great film.
Oh,
I feel so bad. I feel so bad because you all like this movie so much. No.
Just wait, Jason. Just you wait.
that's great. We're all sending you citrines.
Yeah, I put it in the chat. You better look.
Oh, I'm not sending you any citrines. I can't wait until we pick your movie, and then I can do the same thing. Yeah. That's...
Oh yeah, when we watch Sword in the Stone, because that's his favorite. Bah humbug.
Embrace the darkness.
But yet, as much as we disagree with you, beautifully done as always, Jason.
Yeah.
As wrong as it was.
The spam, I had muted myself so that I could type in the chat and nobody could hear my keyboard. And I didn't realize, and I didn't unmute myself. So I don't know if anyone could see me screaming spam when you said spam.
Oh, we have one thing left to do, and that all of you guys in the chat room who've been so beautiful and active, hands up, hands down.
A heart.
I shall eat it.
A heart. That's beautiful. Up, up, up. Neutral. Did you go neutral just because you don't want to be extra hexed?
I am preserving my soul. There are cute elements of this film and things that are okay, but I just don't think it holds together all the way through. And it's too long. It needs to be 90 minutes, not 2 hours. And
I was fine with 2 hours.
I disagree. I disagree because I took a whole hour nap during the movie and I woke up and I could still enjoy it. There was still a movie left for me to watch.
That's not good if you're falling asleep during the movie.
I was falling asleep because I was tired, not because of the movie.
Which I actually
enjoyed every second of it.
Which I actually did while I watched this again yesterday. That's why, part of the reason it gets only a half.
Yeah.
I was bored.
Tell you, wands up, horns up. Wand down for the animal sacrifice portions, wands up for the overall movie, wands up, horns up. Okay, then we don't have zero wands down. So no matter how cruel and biting your moment in the time was, no complete wands down. And only one neutral, except for the animal thing. Just me. We have to take care of our animals. Anyway, we have a couple. Okay, Heather, what are you gonna vote?
I'm gonna give this a neutral just to be in solidarity with Jason, who apparently is me tonight. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I'm telling on you so fast.
Voting for someone else. You're double voting. I think that's illegal.
I think that's fair.
It's definitely illegal.
Anyway, next week we are going to see Wicked. So you guys get out there, watch it. It's worth. Well, I'm just gonna say, just get out there and watch it because you have to watch it. If you go on social media, you have to watch it because there's a commercial. The way they're doing the ads and stuff, you can learn choreography on social media. You can do all sorts of. It's wild. But before we go, how's anybody doing? Does anybody have, number one, anything that they have coming up? And number two, since we are now into the holiday season, I thought any holiday wishes or holiday fun things or holiday, I have to tell you all, Jason just did the witching hour. It's going to air on the 16th, very Yule happy. And we talked about holiday things. So I thought maybe if we had a couple minutes, anybody. So we'll start with, Jason was there moments ago. We'll go with Richard-Lael because he's got a heart.
Oh, I was showing official Ryan James Espich my wand heart.
That's beautiful.
I got it on Amazon or something, and then I hand painted it so that it would be a little bit more
Wow.
anatomical. What do I have going on? I have, well, I'm here in New Orleans, and I do readings here in the house. I'm easily found, thegentlemanpsychic.com. I like to tell people that I'm easy to find. I used to do stand-up, and then I found I make more money on my back. Anyway, with that, yeah, I'm a little bit of everywhere. So that's just me.
Thank you. Any special plans for upcoming? Oh no, we're still weeks away, so we're okay to talk about Yule or solstice or Christmas or Hanukkah or anything like that. So, all right, Courtney.
That's me. I can be found online at the Femes everywhere femurs are sold. And I am looking into, now that it's my less busy time of year, if I can find the time to stream some video games. We started playing Little Hope, which is Salem Witch Trial coded a little bit in there. It's a fun story game, so you can join in and make me scream and scared on Twitch. So at the Femes on Twitch.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Jason.
Tomorrow is Krampus night. So it's the night where Krampus would go door to door and ask all the children if they had been good. And if the children were bad, he would take them and put them in his basket and then whisk them to hell or beat them. So everyone should be sure to celebrate Krampus night. If you've got a costume and your neighbors have children, be sure to go next door because your neighbors will absolutely appreciate it. If you live in the Bay Area, tomorrow is Jason's holiday party. We call it the whiskey party. We put all 70 bottles of whiskey that we have in the house out and let our friends try and sample our very large collection. So if you're in the Bay Area, let me know. I might invite you over for the party. And I have nothing going on because December is just for Yule. No pagan trips. I love it. This is great. Just me and the Phillips.
The Phillips are growing. So everybody remember, mysterycontrol.com. You could have a naked Phillip. You could have a bling Phillip. I do believe that you have options. They are both fabulous.
Yeah.
I actually, this weekend, anybody in Texas, I'm going to be in Ballinger, Texas, which is like a couple hours out of Dallas, with my partner in Paraflix, Natalie Jones. We're doing an overnight in a crazy, fabulous, haunted old park hotel where you could do just the investigation with us, seance with us, spend the night in the hotel if you want. You don't have to. It's like you've just walked into an old movie set kind of hotel. It's really great. This week and the next weekend, I'm going to be in Northern California, in Jackson, California, and also holiday Christmas themed paranormal convention put on by Grim Life Inc. It's their first event like this, and all sorts of fun people are coming. And I'll be doing seances and ghost hunts and talking to spirits. So it's old cowboy month for me. And then I'm home until January. Yay. So we have 2 minutes left.
And you know what they say about Texas?
What?
You know what they say about Texas?
What do they say about Texas?
Only two things come from Texas: steers and all my exes live in Texas. You thought I was going queer.
Yeah, we did.
I feel sort of bad. Like my Black Phillip's pretty old, right? And his hair is all matty. And now Bling Phillips got like, hey, I got my necklace on and look at my fur. It's all shiny and not matted. And you, Black Phillip, you're old. And, I hope the original is not so sad or jealous or upset.
Maybe it needs stardust. It needs some stardust. Eat the heart of the old.
No.
But my old Black Phillip is on drugs because you look at his one eye up, one eye sideways, one eye up, one eye sideways, because my husband fixed it for me. That's what he does. But they love each other, even if one's a little long in the tooth.
So, I left imposter Black Phillip over here to babysit the children. He's sitting next to the haunted Roomba.
But
in front of the Richard-Lael pillow, but there's the children in the house, and I don't know what's happening. I just realized this, and now I feel bad because I'm snuggling original OG Black Phillip and Bling Phillip because now he just came out of the box. But there's imposter Black Phillip.
Grab him up. Grab it. Oh my God.
No, he's babysitting the children. These little kids, the goat kids, cannot be left in the house by themselves.
All right. Are you sure he's not crying?
No, I'm not sure about that. He is touching the haunted Roomba, so.
Roomba episode as well.
Mommy love me. Why doesn't she love me?
Anyway, it is that time. So, is there anything other that we could do other than cackle? Is there anything Stardust like? Is there anything? No. We have nothing to do.
No.
I mean, we could do the Ricky Gervais.
I'm not doing that.
No.
But you did Richard-Lael, and we love it.
Yeah, you can.
Cackle for all. And that means you guys out in the chat room, we want you to cackle loudly. Have your family members and roommates wonder what you're doing. Okay?
I'm listening.
Disturb people.
1, 2, 3.